Since 2009, Minecraft has wildly evolved and changed. From starting out as a personal pet project by one guy in his apartment to exploding into the convention-having, merchandise-selling, multi-billion-dollar property it's become today, it's been a real roller coaster ride for both Minecraft and its ever-expanding team. Hi, I'm Jacob with The Leaderboard, and today we're going to compare and contrast just how much has changed with Minecraft over the last 8 years. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but trust me, it's a lot. So grab your pickaxe, keep an eye out for creepers, and join us as we go into Minecraft then versus now. The developers. On May 17th of 2009, an alpha version of Minecraft was released into the wild. The wild in this situation being the feedback forum of tigsource.com by Marcus Persson, aka Notch. At this point in time, this version of the game was of course free to download and play. Originally, he created a base building game called Ruby Dung akin to Dwarf Fortress, a management and construction simulator with roguelike elements, but after playing a multiplayer block-based sandbox game called Infiniminer, he wanted to mix the two. This vanilla game mode in future versions of Minecraft would be dubbed Classic Mode and allowed players to explore and create their cube worlds. The worlds were limited in size, but they were randomly generated. In September of 2010, Persson, and I'm totally gonna get this pronunciation wrong, Jacob co-founded the studio Mojang to aid in the continued efforts of making Minecraft. They were able to use the funds from selling copies of Minecraft through their site to bankroll the company. Carl Mene was later brought in to act as the CEO. Now, fast forward only 4 years to 2014 when Microsoft announced that they were acquiring Mojang for $2.5 billion with a B dollars. With his stakes being bought out, Persson, along with the other founders, left the company. Since then, Microsoft has made sure that Minecraft has been given an official port to pretty much any device with a screen attached to it, including phones, the Raspberry Pi, and the Oculus Rift. They've even used it in tech demos for their big augmented reality HoloLens project. The graphics. When Minecraft was first being developed, it was just one guy working on his side projects, so the crude graphics are understandable. The lower fidelity graphics, however, also allowed the game to be able to randomly generate large expansive worlds to explore and not require a powerhouse computer to do so. Though we must admit, there is an undeniable charm that comes with pixelated textures and the lack of pretty much any smooth curves. It feels like playing an old computer game from the 90s. There's a whole scene of games nowadays that strive to achieve the early low polygon games aesthetic, and one could say that Minecraft was the game that popularized this retro flavor, even if they might not have been purposely going for that specific look. Nowadays, Minecraft still has all of those sharp-edged cubes that you could cut diamonds on with those still pixelated textures, but the lighting and rendering systems have been completely overhauled. They're even releasing a 4K version of the game for the Xbox One X, making those cubes look like the shiniest, prettiest cubes you've ever laid eyes on. The characters. At first, there was only one character in Minecraft. You! Or, well, technically it's Steve if you didn't change your player skin. But when they eventually added combat to the game, there came the realization that there needed to be some enemies too. The game's most iconic enemies, creepers, were actually the product of a mistake. Persson has admitted that he coded the pig NPC incorrectly, and then the result was the creeper. Aside from the creeper, players could now find zombies, skeletons, spiders, pigs, sheep, and giants in the game as well. And one of the last major updates before the Microsoft acquisition included the introduction of a default female skin named Alex. It also introduced more gender-neutral sounds that the player would make in-game. Before, if the player was hurt, they would make a very deep, male-sounding grunt. Now, damage is indicated with a tick noise, and fall damage is indicated with a symphony of breaking bones. After that, all was pretty silent on the new characters front, until 2015, when Microsoft released new Pocket and console editions of Minecraft. In these editions, they introduced skin packs, which are downloadable skins for your player character, which opened the door for licensed property packs, like Adventure Time, Power Rangers, and even Magic the Gathering. Through skin packs, Minecraft now has a cast that's pretty all-encompassing. The gameplay. As mentioned earlier, the classic version of Minecraft was very minimal. It would essentially just create a randomly generated world and then leave you to explore it. You could break blocks and place new ones, and had access to every type of block in the game, essentially making it an unlimited Lego simulator, which, to be fair, is pretty awesome in its own right. But in August of 2009, Survival Test was released to players who pre-purchased the game and provided them with an additional mode to explore. Booting up a Survival Test game gave players a health bar, enemies throughout the the world, and various ways to die. Since players could now take damage, they needed a way to heal. Brown mushrooms, the only way to gain health, could be found by defeating sheep and pigs scattered around the world. Special attention had to be paid though, as red mushrooms were also added, but they dealt damage to the player instead of healing them. Careless players would soon find out that the various enemies weren't the only things that would kill them. Lava could now take their lives, and they could even drown. Their worlds had become much more dangerous, just like the real world, because you can't use video games to even escape anymore. A whole new score of features would be added throughout the early versions of the game, such as a day and night cycle, other consumable food for health like pork, bread, and mushroom soup, which replaced eating raw mushrooms, expanded inventory and crafting systems, and dynamic lighting. Jump to 2011 when the official release of Minecraft at Minecon ushered in an actual ending to the game in a realm appropriately titled The End. A new game mode was also introduced called Hardcore. Starting a game in this mode would have the player find themselves locked into hard difficulty survival mode with a twist. When the player dies, they only have two options available to them. They can either spectate in the world or delete it. So if you died, hopefully you weren't too attached to that world. Ever since Microsoft took the reins, the gameplay updates haven't slowed any, and in fact they've ramped up and only gotten grander in scale. They've added downloadable content and countless new patch updates. Well, I guess you could count them, but it would take a really long time. They've also added a community marketplace where people can share their mods and custom creations. And with the Better Together update, they've started to unify the major versions of Minecraft so someone on the Nintendo Switch can play online with someone on an Xbox One or an iOS device. And that is pretty awesome. The weapons. When Minecraft was first put online for free, there were no weapons and there was no combat, just exploring. But eventually, with the addition of enemies, they had to give you something to fight them off with. One of the first weapons to be added to the game was your standard everyday sword. You could also craft an axe, which had the double utility of chopping down trees quicker than just punching them. Oh yeah, for the two of you who haven't played Minecraft, you gotta punch stuff to break it down into materials if you don't have a tool. And if you think that that's the weirdest part of all of this, you're probably focusing on the wrong things. You could also throw arrows that you picked up from enemies, but strangely enough, you couldn't craft a bow to actually shoot them until a later patch. Now, not only are there higher and higher tiers of these weapons you can craft, including specialty arrows that apply status effects to the enemy, like fire and poison, but there are also potions, which depending on which one you take, can do different things, like heal you or be thrown into a crowd to deal damage, acting like a grenade. In February of 2016, the combat update was released and the entire combat system was overhauled. A timed attack system and dual wielding mechanics were introduced, as well as various weapons and armor. Players were also able to fight the Ender Dragon again in a revamped fight, and new end islands were available to explore. Most importantly, the developers released the Elytra, an equipable item that gives players the ability to fly and glide. The expansive world. From the start, Minecraft's #1 focus was on exploration. Starting out, exploring was mainly seeing what kind of world the game's level generator could cook up for you. Initially, the worlds were limited in size, but eventually the level generator would be remade to handle infinitely expanding worlds that could grow larger and larger the further out beyond the horizon you went. A major element in the open world is its biomes that have been expanded further and further over the years. Biomes are climate zones, a series of variables that dictate what kind of environment the level is going to generate. Starting out, it was just simpler biomes like a forest or the beach, but soon deserts, swamps, and further variations of forests and jungles made each world generation an exciting prospect. Crafting is, unsurprisingly since it's in the name, another major element of Minecraft that was introduced in January of 2010, and it also gives you a reason to explore, needing to brave the rough terrain to scavenge materials to make more and more complex items. Originally, it was about making simple stuff like shovels and food, eventually graduating to furniture, and eventually still even machines with the introduction of redstones. Redstones allow players to make paths on the ground, kind of like a circuit board, and create automated devices, like a fully functioning rideable roller coaster. The modding community. Speaking of redstones, that and the modding community that emerged around the game is really what helped it blow up in popularity. Over the years, there's been an arms race into who can make the most ridiculously complex thing within Minecraft. It was somewhat simpler stuff in the early days, like texture mods that players could install to give the game fresh new looks, or using redstones to make contraptions like a working calculator, but nowadays people have managed to make complete and fully functioning remakes of video games like Pokemon Red for the Game Boy, all within Minecraft's blocky confines. There is absolutely no end in sight to how many creative mods Minecraft has inspired, and there are way more than we could even hope to begin to cover here today. But if you've made any yourself, drop drop a comment in this video, and continue to share your creations. Minecraft has morphed into an almost completely different game since its inception, and we're sure its evolution won't be stopping anytime soon. So what changes would you like to see in future versions of the game? Is there a specific patch of the game that you prefer to play? Tell us in the comments below. Once again, I'm Jacob with The Leaderboard, and thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that bell icon to become a member of our notification squad, and if you like getting more from your games, subscribe to The Leaderboard, where we help you game smarter.